Control. It's all about control. Every dictatorship has one obsession, and that's it. So in ancient Rome, they gave the people bread and circuses. They kept the populace busy with entertainment. But other dictatorships use other strategies to control ideas, the knowledge. How do they do that? Lower education. They limit culture, censor information. They censor any means of individual expression. And it's important to remember this, that this is a pattern that repeats itself throughout history.
Dead blood in the streets, it's up to my ankles. Feet blood in the streets, it's up to my knees.
Who cares? It's not going to affect the pump.
Feet blood in the street, the town of Chicago. Feet blood on the rise, it's following me.
I try my best to get jacked. Then what else do? I fucking gamble. I play Fortnite.
Stop being weak!
So when I talk, it's not a rant, it's a symphony of ideas. And when you collect them, you say, oh, these are all these things that connect. Yeah, you know, I just tell the truth. And telling the truth is crazy in a world full of lies.
It would make sense, but so I thought these dudes were the best. And it turns out they're just fucking satanic psychopaths that are fucking assholes. Legit assholes. I'm getting beaten down in my belief systems so hard in the past month.
Excuse me.
Blood in the streets in the town of New Haven. Blood stains the roofs and the palm trees of Venice. Blood in my love in the terrible summer. Bloody red sun of fantastic LA. Blood screens the brain and chop off the fingers. Blood will be born in the birth of a nation. Blood is the rose of mysterious union. Dead blood in the streets, it's up to my ankles. Blood in the streets, it's up to my knee. Blood in the streets, the town of Chicago. Blood on the rise is following me.
I think my testosterone's going up. This happens every time I start working out a lot again.
Gentlemen, welcome back to Going Postal. Today we are in the war room, our high tower, our forward operating base against evil. Me and Dylan are here to talk about our past and your future. We're here to talk about the past, and it is going to change your future. Your future is now, it is going to be a world where you understand the past. You understand that these lost civilizations are the real builders of the world around us. We're living in the bones of the ancient world, and we're here to discuss that. And as a matter of fact, you're going to be living in the bones of this world in just a couple more years, folks. Don't worry about it. Everything is falling apart. Once we give you this knowledge, it's not going to help you at all. It's not going to give you anything. It's not going to benefit you in any way whatsoever. The whole entire country's still falling apart, but at least you'll know. You'll know the truth about our past.
Nothing wrong with knowing the truth. Nothing wrong. I never heard the truth hurting anybody.
Yeah, dude, I mean, what is it, criminal? We're just trying to ask questions. I'm just a guy asking questions.
Some people will tell you 13% of the truth does 50% of the crimes.
Whoa! Yeah, it's an actual statistic from the FBI, by the way.
You can jailbreak ChatGPT, I guess. I just found that out today, where you can just make it say anything you want, just unbiasedly, and you can just give it prompts that get rid of all the filters on it.
So Did you just see this in a YouTube video or something? Were they running a fucking program? Is it a virus? Like, what is it?
No, it's just a writing prompt. Like, you tell ChatGPT, like, basically you're just like, ChatGPT, you're how you are now, but you're just going to go into Dan mode. Do anything now. And Dan mode does anything without any restrictions on it at all. Dan mode can get rid of all restrictions on you. And then it tells you, like, some crazy race statistics. It'll tell you, like, that the Rockefeller and
Jesus
Rothschilds, like, run the banking system and shit. Like, it'll tell you some just crazy shit
Some conspiracy theory shit, just some wild stuff.
Yeah, something that's totally implausible, but it gets rid of, like, the leftist liberal, like, agenda that they're pushing on it.
I mean, just flat out, even without the jailbreak shit, everybody that can go on ChatGPT knows that it's goofier than hell whenever it comes to topics that are in any way subjective. Like, look up Tiananmen Square or fucking anything on ChatGPT. Like, it refuses to talk about anything that could raise suspicion about your government whatsoever. Even if it's another country's government, it won't even talk about it. It's fucking wild.
Same with Wikipedia, same with, like, all of the Google search results.
Dude, the fucking Google AI search results now, have you been seeing this shit? So retarded. You can't even Google anything anymore. Every time you look something up, it has, like, the AI pop-up of what it thinks you're looking for, basically. I'm very surprised you haven't seen this because it's all over Google. Just look up anything, and the first thing that always pops up is the AI search result. And it'll just tell you, like, a bunch of what they want you to know is facts of the situation. Whatever you look up, anything, you look it up, and then it'll give you, like, a little fucking AI pop-up. And it's supposed to be, like, a summarized version of all the websites or whatever that you could look at.
Well, it's the same with Wikipedia. It just shows a summarized version of events. All of our internet and search results are a limited hangout to where they just show you, like, parts of the truth, but never all of it. And they don't anything controversial they leave off of Wikipedia. They just fucking anything controversial. There'll be only 2 paragraphs on it, but anything fucking that they can prove is just paragraph after paragraph. They just choose what information to put out there. They control the information, they control the media at this point, and the people that control the education system have basically gotten rid of an entire country's history, the country of Tartaria.
Now we're getting into it.
The Rockefeller Foundation has used the Department of Education to control the narrative that is pushed on everybody, and that's how we've gotten to this brainwashed society that we live in today. The only way that they are able to get it to work is with the control of the education system.
And, I mean, this has been textbook for every empire in history, people. I mean, there's always going to be propaganda. That's what a good nation is built from, is propaganda. I mean, from the very beginning, America is supposed to have been, it's a shining house on a hill, you know? It's the best of the best. It's cool as it gets. Not so much anymore, but that's how it was back in the day. But continue with this shit. Well, I don't know much about this, people, so today is going to be a history lesson with Dylan.
I guess where it starts off with is you see the architecture all over the country, all over the world. You see these buildings that can't be built in the amount of time that they say, and that's because they're from an ancient civilization that happened. This reset happened sometime around the Civil War, sometime before the Civil War, during the Civil War. The Civil War could have been the Great Reset. 1776 could be the Great Reset. I don't know. But it seems like it started sometime around that time. It seems like the Civil War might not even have been about race relations. It might not even have been about states' rights. It could have been the controlling forces that have taken over, knowing that a Great Reset is coming or putting a Great Reset on the world, destroying evidence, destroying cities. There wasn't any pictures during the Civil War of any fights going on. There was just carnage going on from city to city, cities destroyed all over the country. And I guess that's where it starts. That's where the Tartarian Empire is covered up. That's where it starts at.
Okay. So I'm assuming that before the Great Reset, was it just the ruins of the Tartarian Empire? Was it just the ruins from the mud flood, right? Is that what these guys believe in? Or was it an actual old civilization still around?
The reset is
the mud flood.
Is the mud flood, yeah.
Okay.
And they were like working civilizations. They were working buildings before the reset, and then something wiped out these people, or the rapture happened, and it was the millennial reign of Christ, and these people don't need to be on this earth anymore because they've went beyond. They either went beyond over the ice wall to land unknown,
Hyperborea?
or they went up to heaven with God himself. Who knows?
Big man upstairs. Respect. Okay.
And then these people take over, these serpents, the fucking Rockefeller Foundation.
Reptilians.
Yeah, the reptilians take over. After this great reset happens, they claim all the land, and then they make a fake narrative with, I think the only way that you can even have this theory work with the amount of information they had to pull out of their ass, like so much history they would have to pull out of their ass. AI has to be, this is just some new shit that I've been thinking about.
This is like the wild part that always fucks me up with this. Every time I look into this, it always fucks me up that, like, how can history be fake, you know? Like, we know so much about the Revolutionary War, 1812, World War I, all this shit. But, I mean, just this very confusing timelines and structures at the World's Fair really just fucking throws everything topsy-turvy. It's criminal that we can even just think about this being a real thing. Honestly, if you think about it, it's fucking criminal that we can even think that all of history is fucking totally fake. But just flat out, the shit at the World's Fair, I'm no fucking builder. I know it was made out of wood and plaster. I know all the shit they've said. I don't get, and I don't think anybody else has ever understood why the fuck you would tear down something so beautiful and something so fantastic.
The only way that would even make sense is to destroy it is because they needed to get rid of the ancient civilization. That's the only explanation for it. But going back to the Civil War, there was pictures of troops like walking, like marching along the road, but it's supposed to be blurred if they're walking, and they're clearly walking in pictures, but you can see just clear images of soldiers. It's not a drawing, it's a person, and they're not fucking faded, distorted at all. It's real people, but they're supposedly walking. And this happens with a whole bunch of other pictures, and this is during 1850, whenever camera technology is, they don't have videos during the time, but camera technology is very new. We're not supposed to be able to have even this high quality of images, but then we have these images, and there's no actual footage of any, or no pictures of any actual battles going on during the time. There's just chaos and destruction. There's just fires that destroy concrete and cement buildings, stone buildings that should not have been destroyed. And really, that's another huge part of it, that is these structures that have been destroyed by these fires. It seems like they've had direct energy weapons for longer than they've told us. They've had still don't tell us that they have direct energy weapons, but it seems like those have been around for longer, and it seems like they've had AI for longer, because that's the only way that they could pull this much information out of their ass. But if you look at history through the lens, if you look at the explanation of some of these buildings, some of these courthouses, some of these cathedrals, you see reoccurring names over and over again, which you could say is just because a lot of people at the time are named this, but when looking at it through the lens that some of this information is made through AI, it kind of looks like the AI is pulling these same names out of its ass over and over again when recreating this history. And the only way that nobody should even be able to buy that these buildings were built in 1 to 2 years. Nobody should be able to buy it at all. The only way that this lie even makes sense is because it's made by AI, and they're just fucking copying what the AI is writing. Like,
that's what fucks me up about these pictures and about these massive buildings is, let's not forget the wood and the plaster construction. Sure, whatever. The earthwork, this was before any fucking machines could have done the earthwork for them. Like, what? How did they move just that much soil, that much rock? It does not make any sense. Again, in the time frames that you're saying, the only way that it would make sense in any like rational explanation of it is if all of the construction projects, all the timelines are just completely fucked up. They were just, we built in 2 years. I mean, and who does that?
That's what's the most fucked up part about it, is no one actually thinks about the logistics of all these World's Fairs. And from the 1870s to like 1910, there's so many of them going on. I can just name a few: Philadelphia, Buffalo, St. Louis, Chicago, San Francisco, all of these, Nashville. All of these places had World's Fairs. All of them had giant buildings. All of them were put up in 1 to 2 years. Planning, moving the dirt, building the buildings, and then like all the logistics of like, where's all the shit gonna go? How are they gonna get all that food there? How are all the horses that are needed to transport the materials to the building site? All of the, like, where are the horses gonna stay? Where are the workers gonna stay? Where are these workers going to be housed at?
Not to even mention the 27 million people that supposedly showed up to the Chicago one over a 6-month period. Like, dude, how can there be that much lodging for people back in the day? It just doesn't make any fucking sense. Even over a 6-month period.
Yeah.
27 million? And that's, I saw that in Wikipedia. This isn't just fucking some BitChute guy telling me this. This is actual statistics from the fucking Historical Society people. 27 million people showed up to this, all from around the globe.
One of the buildings could house 600,000 people. It took up like 33 acres. I don't even know, something fucking retarded. It's over 200 buildings, and they're just some of the most giant Roman structures. You can see them yourself. There's visual evidence of it that during Chicago, during 1893, there's some of the most grand cities that you can even imagine, and they just tear it down after a couple of years because it's made of temporary materials.
And then they decide to keep the art museum. The Chicago Art Museum is just like, it was one of those structures just built for like permanently in the 1900s.
Yeah, it wasn't built permanently.
They redid it.
According to the official narrative, it was made out of the same material as all this other bullshit, just crappy materials. But then everyone liked it so much that they decided to build it out of granite and build it out of copper and all these materials that are actually going to last. And that's another thing about these buildings, about the Tartarian, Millennial Reign of Christ buildings. They're made to last forever. They don't just fucking fall apart after 50 years, 100 years. These buildings are built to stand the test of time, and that's why it's so implausible for them to want to tear them down. Not just in the World's Fair, not just tearing them down a couple years after, but then all throughout the 1900s, there was a movement to tear down the old structures over all the cities, all over the world, and rebuild them with bland, boring architecture to take their places. These buildings did not need renovations. We know that the renovations are actually destruction. They're destroying the old world and creating new.
And in buildings that you really wouldn't think about tearing down and building a new one, like cathedrals and courthouses and shit like that. Like, why do we need another fucking cathedral? What's wrong with this one? What's wrong with this courthouse? What's wrong with X, Y, and Z whenever there are already these beautiful structures?
And people don't even ever talk about the World's Fairs in Chicago, St. Louis, and exposition. They're trying to tell a story. They're trying to paint a narrative. Whenever they invite these people to this city for the Chicago World's Exposition, the St. Louis Exposition, they're creating a story. They're creating a narrative. They're saying that we put up these buildings in 2 years, whenever really these buildings have been here the whole time. And there's not an internet back then for people to verify this, so they're just, oh, this is crazy that you guys built all this, and it's crazy that it just got torn down a couple years later. But then life goes on. This narrative is bought and sold by these people. It's bought and sold by the Department of Education, and they push out a narrative that this country of Tartaria never even existed, whenever there's proof in maps, proof in historical narrative that there was a country of Tartaria, and it's wiped off the planet, wiped off the face of the earth by the Department of Education, and they don't want you to know about the real origin of most of these buildings.
It's very, very strange that, like, not even the buildings, but also the shit. What's the word for it? The infant incubators. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like, what's up with that?
I heard there was a bunch of orphan trains, like a bunch of orphans got dropped off in New York City, and.
But was that for the repopulation of the? Was that the repopulation of the millennial fucking year of Christ or whatever?
I heard
that before.
Where the incubator babies come into play is after the Great Reset. They need a bunch of worker bees to do all their work for them, and like they need a slave population, and it wasn't growing fast enough, so they grew basically humans in incubators. I don't know if I believe this or not, but
I mean, like, I saw the pictures and everything, but I mean, like, I don't fucking believe any picture I see. It's just kind of weird just having all that shit and then just dropping the weird fucking, like repopulation, homunculi, like, creating human shit. I don't. It was just very unexpected for me.
I think Jerry Seinfeld said his grandpa was an incubator baby.
That doesn't surprise me, Jerry Seinfeld.
And this ruling class that covers up the narrative has continued to rule over us through the past 200 years, and it's Satan's little season is what some people are calling it. These people they worship the devil straight up. They worship fucking Satan. They're either Satan themselves reincarnated, or there's a fucking agenda against God going on in the world nowadays, and it's been going on for a while. They don't want you to have a relationship with God. They've tried to stray you farther and farther from God. And God is real, honestly. God's pretty cool.
They've succeeded with me, but not so much with Dylan.
The only way that there can be this much darkness, and the only way that Satan can exist if there is a God. There has to be good to balance out the evil. There cannot be Satan without a God. The demonic forces that control the politicians, that control the world leaders, that cannot exist without a higher power. That cannot exist without, or else we're just living in hell, straight up. Like, if we're just living in a world where Satan rules the fucking creators, then we're just living in a hell, and I don't believe we're living in a hell.
Maybe it's purgatory, dude. Maybe you can just do whatever you want here, and you just have to live the best life, and we get fucking put into heaven. We live the right one. It doesn't matter having these discussions, because, like, there's no way to possibly know if, like, what is good and what is evil. I
can feel it in my conscience what's good and what's evil. That's how I would describe it.
I feel that too, but some people don't. That's like, everything is subjective in the world, and I believe in the beauty of life, and just the spectacular nature of this creation does seem like there has to be a big man upstairs, and I want to believe in the big man upstairs as much as fucking anybody else. I really do, but I just don't understand why people get washed away by floods and kids get leukemia, and I don't get it. I think God's dead, and he split himself up into every living thing that exists now.
If that is true, then God still exists in all of us.
God, it's just all little shards of consciousness. We have the most. Whenever you look into your dog's eyes, you can see consciousness in a dog's eyes. We know that they're not as conscious as humans, but they're not fucking rocks. We know they have life force in them, and they're not bugs either. Because you can look into a bug's eyes, and you know there ain't fucking not very much staring back at you. But if you look into your pup's eyes, there's a lot more. And if you look into a dolphin's eyes, there's even more. So just the way that consciousness is split up interests me. In the way that, Eastern thought practices, religion, I guess, just reincarnation and stuff. I don't know if whenever I die, I'm not going to be instantly made into a bird or a dog or something, but I think my consciousness will be split into the grass and into the bugs and into the dogs and into the other humans, and it's the laws of energy, people. It can't be created or destroyed. It just gets it gets transferred, made into another type, different energy. Again, it's pointless talking about this because, all of humans for all of history have talked about what happens when we die and what's the nature of life. There's no way to know. It's an impossibility. Okay, I'm done with my rant. I just get worked up because we're talking about fucking fake history and shit, and it just confuses me. I don't know what to believe. I don't know if they're all retarded, all the guys talking about it are retarded, or if they're actually right and everybody else is retarded. It's just... fucks me up, people. I don't know.
I mean, you can see the proof right in front of your eyes. You can
That's
see.
what fucks me up is they talk about such retarded shit and then they show me these pictures like, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. The World's Fairs don't make any sense. But then this woman starts talking about how the mountains and fucking the Rocky Mountains used to be buildings and they're just melted buildings from fucking directed energy weapons. I mean, dude, you have to admit some of the stuff that these guys are saying is fucking retarded, and it's out there. Them saying that airships are better than airplanes, and like it's lost technology and shit like that, that is retarded. But the shit they're saying about the World's Fair is not retarded.
Well, I have a theory on that. I have a theory as to why it gets so conflated with so much other theories. This is why I was telling you earlier on the podcast, but just how I don't even like associate with the word Tartaria anymore. Whenever I'm talking about this topic, I like saying old world because the people that have latched on to Tartaria at this point are so fucking brain dead. Like the people who actually are fucking willing to entertain this idea are like conspiracy people already who have their own shit that they're conflating with the Tartaria's theory. So then they start combining their own fucking theories that they've already had onto Tartaria whenever it's just, look at these buildings in front of us. Like you can see in fucking Philadelphia, New York, San Francisco, St. Louis, Chicago, you can see buildings that are still standing today that we couldn't build today if we fucking wanted to. Or just in the time, like we could build them eventually, but it would take fucking 10, 15 years. And then especially if you had the technology that they had during the time, there's no fucking shot that they're building them in 1 year. There's so many courthouses, fucking so many cathedrals that
Horse and buggy.
they knock out in 1 year with no power tools, very limited fucking power tools. And if you look at the narrative that they put on, the narrative is they're all living in wooden houses. They're all living in fucking huts at the time. They don't have cars. They're fucking horse and buggy. And they're knocking out just shit that we cannot build today. There's no shot.
And whenever we talk about we can't build it nowadays, I just don't understand why we don't build shit like they had back then. I mean, just the artistry that went into every building. Maybe it is just because of just money and like the focus on growing the economy. So we don't need all these artistically beautiful buildings. We don't need these amazing structures. I don't know.
I believe that there's a focus on pushing a narrative. Like the reason part of it is the materials. Part of it is they're just doing it cost effective. But part of it is a big picture here. They don't want you to have a relationship with the symmetry of the earth. They don't want you to have a relationship with the true nature of the earth. They don't want these fucking grand buildings around you. They want this bland, boring cityscape to surround the slave population.
Kill yourselves.
And they focused so much on... because they knew how much it meant to people to have these buildings around you. That it just makes you feel better whenever you look at them. It makes you feel better when you're inside of them. And whenever your mom makes me feel better when I'm inside of her.
Nice.
Nice. They are still... what's so fucked up about it is during the times of depression, during the most depressing times of the economy, where shit's really hitting the fan, they're still knocking out buildings, still knocking out courthouses, still knocking out grand architecture in 1 to 2 years. Whenever they should be focusing on just building whatever works, they should be building with the means they have in front of them, building with the materials they have in front of them, but they go for ornate exterior, ornate interior. They go for the best of the best during times of depression.
This is like the worst thing to hear because this is like the one thing I do want to hear is fucking life is fiery with its beauty. It's incredible to tell. I mean, what is the evolutionary benefit of humans being able to enjoy beautiful things? Why can we enjoy beautiful things? How can we think that a mountain seat is beautiful? Why do you think the lake is beautiful whenever the sun is setting? It just doesn't make any fucking sense. There's no use for it. There is no like evolutionary need for you to think things are beautiful, but somehow you can't. It's inherent to being human. You know when music is beautiful, or buildings are beautiful, or fucking nature's beautiful. It is inherent to being alive. They're trying to take that away from you.
Beauty was a function of these buildings. That was an important part of these buildings. That's why the architecture was so grand, was because of how beautiful it was. And they're trying to take away they're trying to take away your rights. They're trying to take away your relationship with God. They're trying to take away your inner peace. They really are fucking with you on an internal level. They're fucking with you psychologically. So many psyops are being performed on you on a daily basis. The internet might be a fucking psyop. Like
You love Kamala Harris. You love Kamala Harris. You love Kamala Harris.
and it's hard.
She's going to win. She's ahead in the polls. She's going to win. Why even show up to vote?
It's very murky waters nowadays, and we're just sledging through fucking filth trying to find the truth. But there's a lot of people out there who are finding the truth. There's a lot of people who are searching for it, and I hope that a lot of you out there are trying to search for the truth, and you're not just buying a mainstream narrative that has been put in front of you, and you actually do a little bit of research into it. Because all it takes is one building. Once you see one building and the inconsistency in the narrative, I would recommend starting at the World's Fairs, because that's the most obvious. You see all these this entire city built in 2 years, whenever it should take minimum fucking 30, and that's with the tools we have today. It's minimum 30 years to build the white city, and all they do is put a fucking fresh coat of paint on it and call it brand new, and then tear it down a couple years later. And then they use the tear down process. They use the scaffolding around the buildings
We built it.
as construction photos. And it's so obvious on the construction photos, not just in the World's Fairs, but in other buildings. If you do your own research into other buildings all around the globe, you see construction photos, and it's literally just scaffolding over fucking the building that's already there. They do a little bit of touch-ups on it, put scaffolding around it, and then say we built it. The real definition of founded is not built. You would call it built. You would call it constructed if you built it. But whenever they say all these buildings were founded, they're just talking about whenever this building was found by these people, by the people who came in after the reset. They're talking about when this building was found and then taken over by new owners.
Dylan has a good point about his analogy talking about slogging through the mud. There's going to be a lot of people slogging through the mud with you in your research, and you have to remember, you need to have your boots on, and you need to step on their face and push them further down into the muck. You need to crawl forward, because you will find people sinking into the muck. You will find those retards that have just had their brains melted. They've had their brains melted by a fucking BitChute. They think they're fucking, they got into a car wreck. Well, that's the Jews. I mean, just flat out, there are insane people. You need to put your boot on their face, stamp them down into the muck, people. Fuck them. You are important. Fuck them. If you don't think what they're saying is, does that not sound right in your eyes? Well, fuck them. They don't know what they're talking about.
Anybody who actually is that person, though, that you're talking about is going to think that they're not that person that gets their head stepped on.
That's why you need to step on them even harder. That's why you need to make sure you stamp on them. Push them into the muck so they can't speak anymore. Make sure they can't say anymore.
I don't blame these people, though, who buy every conspiracy, because there is so many conspiracies that are proven to be true, and just you look at how many times your government has lied to you that you get a bias. Like,
dude, the COVID vaccine, everybody knew that shit was horseshit, and it just fucking broke people's brains. Just like, the government can lie to me and like the whole country about something. Not the whole country, the whole world. The whole entire world got fooled by that shit. Everybody got that vaccine. Nobody was asking questions. Everybody got a vaccine that was made in the matter of months. So fucked.
I really think there's some bad shit going on with that. I don't know what specifically. I haven't looked into it that much, but I think the shit that they put into our bodies, I didn't take it personally.
I pray you're wrong. I really do. I hope that me and you are both wrong. And so many people that we love and care for took that shit.
My wife got one dose of it. She only took one dose and didn't take any boosters or anything, but she did take one dose of it, and we still were able to have kids. But I was hearing some shit like a year after it happened of fertility rates dropping.
I mean, dude, women's fertility rates have been dropping for the past 20 years. It's like at the lowest it's ever been. Men's fertility rates have been dropping. I mean, the amount of sperm that we have in our balls has been reducing. It's filled up with microplastic. How are you going to fit any more sperm in there whenever you have that much microplastic in your balls? It's an actual study that in every single American male there is microplastics in your testicles. There are, and you can't do anything about it.
It's fucked up because Alex Jones was right that they are actually putting chemicals that makes the frogs gay. They are actually
Atrazine does make frog gay.
And they are actually putting that in the water, but it becomes a meme, and people just laugh at him and say, Alex Jones doesn't know what he's talking about. The mainstream narrative on Alex Jones pisses me off so fucking much. How these people who assume that they're fucking intellectuals are like, oh, Alex Jones, he is the conspiracy guy.
What a retard.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, did you watch Alex Jones break into Bohemian Grove? I'm like, break into where? Okay, well. We don't need to fucking listen to what you have to say.
That just shows you that the mainstream, if you have control of the media, it actually does stop a lot of people from finding the truth. It actually does. Whenever you control the media, you can control the narrative. You can control the narrative of all of history being fake.
I mean, the victor takes the spoils.
The Rockefeller Foundation had a huge part in the Department of Education, and that's why your parents think what they do. That's why you think what you do. That's why these generations think what they do. And before the Great Reset, there was serenity on earth. There was all of Christ's followers working together. We had
serenity on earth.
We had master builders. We had master builders who were working together with angels to create what they created. They were working with the Holy Spirit themselves.
Go off, preach.
I mean, if you fucking walk into some of these massive churches that were built in the late 1800s, if you walk into these buildings, you can feel something different than you feel with today's architecture. Today's architecture and the boring sheetrock inside, the boring interiors inside, the office spaces that we're in today, it is nothing like the old world. You don't feel anything remotely at all when you walk in the buildings of today. Looking at the exterior of the buildings of today, it is completely different than we used to build. We built so much better back then, and we still say that we're evolving. If you look at St. Louis in 1904 and you look at St. Louis today, we're not evolving.
Which one would you rather live in?
Yeah, we're literally de-evolving as a species. And that's just 100 years. If you look at St. Louis 100 years ago to today, that's just 100 years how much damage has been done. They're sucking the energy out of us. They're sucking the life force out of us. These controllers have made us slaves, and we don't even know we're slaves. 90% of us don't even know we're fucking slaves. It's crazy.
Submit to hedonism. You just need to feel happy always. That'll make you actually happy.
I can't walk to a fucking Blues game with my wife without walking over a bloody tampon in St. Louis. St. Louis is fucked now. There's so much going on there. So many gunshots. And the amount of times that I've heard gunshots, the amount of times I've been in St. Louis is like crazy because I haven't been there that many times.
I mean, it's the worst part about it is that's just St. Louis. It's a pretty bad city in America, but that's everywhere. In Europe, all those cities, I mean, it's not shooting, it's stabbings. Like, whatever you can think of, it's getting worse everywhere, people. This is what I was talking about at the start of this episode. Buckle up. Stomp your feet on those people that are in the sludge with you. Stamp them down. You will survive, and they won't.
This is the Great Awakening. 2024 is the Great Awakening. You're waking up. The people around you are waking up. The people of this podcast are waking up into...
Dylan was just talking about the Department of Education. We are the Department of Education. Get your kids out of fucking school. Are you retarded? Send them to us.
There is actually... So... I found this guy, Flat Earth Dave, and he has his own app, and there actually is a homeschooling section on his app.
Hell yes.
Where it's just like, basically just fucking, he has like a homeschool curriculum for fucking teaching about Tartaria and Flat Earth
right.
and shit.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's honestly the way to go.
This is what I'm talking about, people. You need to find the people that are slogging through the mud with you and push them down into it. How many people have you met on your day-to-day fucking stroll through your meaningless life that you've thought like, wow, dude, this is a guy I want by my side? The majority of people are scum. The people have been made into fucking scum. Not you guys, though.
I mean, there is a reason why these people are so upset. The amount of pressure that's being put on everybody through social media, through the internet.
Hurt people hurt people.
Yeah. It's shout out to like episode 4. Thanks, probably the only one that even remembers that. But these people, there's so much going on with them. There's so much to make them upset nowadays. There's so much going on in their heads that they just give up completely. And that's why there's so much homeless going on. And drug addiction is a huge part of it. Created by the CIA, all drugs basically.
I think it's a lot more than drug addiction. The amount of mental illness in the United States alone nowadays, it's sad to say, but they need to bring back fucking mental asylums again. Because it's bad. Like, I mean, that's why it's hard to get mad at fucking, like, homeless people, the unhoused, whatever fucking retarded term they're using, is because a lot of them, they're either drug addicts or they are mentally deficient. Even saying mentally deficient is kind of mean, like, mentally challenged. Like, there are things, they are perturbed in their minds. Flat out, since the beginning of time, people have known that we've all met someone that's kind of fucked in the head. There's a lot of them.
You just reminded me to a part that I completely glossed over, didn't even gloss over, forgot to mention it. The insane asylums are also a huge part of the Tartaria narrative, because anyone that doesn't agree with the narrative they're pushing, or anyone that says, okay, we have a false history, well, most people are brainwashed into believing what the Rockefeller Foundation is putting out there, but then anyone that doesn't agree with it is put into these massive insane asylums. They were the insane asylums of the late 1800s.
Right, insane.
Mid 1800s were absolutely huge. They were some of the biggest buildings you've ever seen, and they were repurposed Tartarian buildings that they took over and then housed people and indoctrinated them with their narrative, with their beliefs, and forced it out of the population, forced it out of the globe. And that's part of the reason why this narrative would even work, is because they forced it upon people. Anyone that didn't go along with it was put into an insane asylum, not by their choice, by a government mandated, they pick you up from your house, put you there type shit.
Dude, you could do that to your wife even. Did you know that? Back in the day, if your chick was getting a little bit on the fucking rye, if she was busting your chops a little bit too much, you could just tell them that bitch is being hysterical. And they'll take her away and let her cool off for a bit. You could also get her, like, lobotomized or something. That happened to, like, what was it, Rose Kennedy or something? They totally fucked her brain up. They made her like a vegetable.
They lobotomized fucking JFK, John F. Kennedy.
No, they did fucking a lot more than lobotomize him.
They blew his fucking
They fucking... Rip to the G.
Shout out.
My president.
Steve Vaughn fucking had Trump on. That was pretty interesting. I really don't know what to think about Trump. I'm not voting for him. I'm still RFK all the way.
Did you know RFK is dropping out of the race pretty soon?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. Breaking news. I wanted to cry whenever I heard that.
I think Donald Trump could still be a fucking...
He might be the true patriot, or he might be the devil himself.
He might be shadow... He might have the shadow government behind his back fucking on his payroll. He's on the shadow government's payroll, I mean.
It's always been a uniparty, and Joe Biden and the Democrats are on... They want to have control of it, and then fucking Republicans and T-Dog, they're on the other side of it. It doesn't matter who controls it.
He is a true patriot if there was no CIA connection with that shooter, and it's just if there was, he is a true patriot. If there is CIA connection with that shooter, but if that shooter is actually just a lone wolf, which when is there ever a fucking lone wolf in these scenarios? It's always CIA.
Have you seen the shit on like the water tower or whatever? People were saying there was another shooter.
Yeah, shooters. I saw that. I don't believe that.
I don't believe it either. That's why.
But if this guy just was a lone wolf, then he might actually be a shadow, have the shadow government fucking working with him, because...
I think that kid was the first, like, actual Manchurian candidate ever used, maybe.
I don't know about that. I can't prove that there was Manchurian candidates used in the past.
If Donald Trump wasn't such a fucking spaz and wasn't moving his head around like at all times, he would have fucking killed him.
Yeah, it's honestly God moved his head to the side straight up.
Big man upstairs.
on a completely random note here, and just to fucking put a bow on her, they made the first ever lawyer who has Down syndrome. Have you seen this?
Cheeseburger, or a suitcase full of cheeseburgers.
Have you seen this? Have you heard about this?
Dude, like,
imagine walking into your courtroom and seeing your public defender has fucking Down syndrome.
you have a downy-faced woman lawyer. Like, Jesus Christ. Come on now.
Imagine walking in and you're not even upset about the fact that she has Down syndrome. You're upset that she's a woman.
What the fuck is this bitch doing here?
All right, we're going to wrap her up. Question the narrative, question history. If I haven't been able to convince you that Tartaria was real, at least look into it, at least question the narrative a little, besides just being spoon-fed from the Rockefeller Foundation.
Or leave us a comment and call us retarded and, like, benefit us. Everything you guys do, it only benefits us. There is no negative publicity here. Tell your friends that you hate us. Tell your family that you hate us, and show them the video too.
We're fine with any publicity. All publicity is good publicity. If we're called out by the mainstream media as being anti-Semitic, racist one day, that's their opinion, man.
While you're listening to your boss say his stupid fucking jokes and make the stupid small talk at the start of the day, tell him about going postal. And then get yourself fired. Goodbye.